Good morning, survivors, and happy Saturday. Today, I'm going to cover a subject that's kind of serious, but I think it's one that you guys probably want to hear about. It's called sensory processing sensitivity, and it can be a side effect of having been abused by a narcissist. All right, so let's get started.
My name is Angie Atkinson, and this channel is all about teaching you what I know to be true. You really can create the life you want.
Going through narcissistic abuse has a big impact on the way that we tend to see the world, the way that the world sees us. And in fact, it tends to do something to us that people don't even realize. And, you know, the connection between the trauma that we experience emotionally, physically, otherwise, and our sensory integration, depending on when the abuse began in our lives, can be very serious. This can even happen if you've only been abused in your adult life emotionally. Although, if we're being honest with ourselves, we would admit that most of us have experienced abuse of some sort, even in childhood, and that's kind of how we got into the place where we were stuck with a narcissist in the first place. So, but we'll get to that in another video. So we're going to talk today about sensory integration and how we understand it today, scientifically speaking, as well as how our emotions interact in our processing, our sensory processing, okay? But we're going to go into details as to how this affects us and what we can do to cope with it, all right? So let's do it now. First, do you have your coffee? This is a cup that came out of my mother-in-law's collection. It's Cook's Club, and I think that it was actually I don't know, it's old. I have a bunch of them. When my mother-in-law died, my sister, well, actually, technically she's my sister-in-law, gave me a bunch of mom's coffee cups, which I really appreciated because I was very close with mom, my husband's mom, technically, but she was a wonderful lady, so I love to drink out of her cups. Anyway, all right, so we're going to move on, and we're going to start talking about sensory processing sensitivity. So a quick statistic. Sensory processing issues, cause us to be highly sensitive, and high sensitivity is a normal trait found in about 20% of the entire population. So it's pretty common, The proper term for the trait, of course, like I said, is sensory processing sensitivity, or SPS, all right? The brains of people with SPS tend to function a little differently than those without this particular trait. So nearly all animals have this trait, and this includes dogs, cats, fish, horses, all of those. And even insects apparently can have this particular trait. So it's not a bad thing, it's just a thing that happens. If you or someone that you know has sensory processing sensitivity, understanding the trait can be incredibly helpful toward getting clear of it, fixing your life from it. So, or of it. Is that a thing? Anyway. Obviously, there's no known cure, but there's not really a need for a cure. You might also call yourself an empath if this is the case. 1 out of 5 people apparently have this trait. And, of course, it doesn't require treatment, but learning to manage it in certain situations is helpful. Some people like to say they like to put up a shield when they're an empath so that when they go into a room, it doesn't bother them, with everyone else's emotions that are involved. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to go through a set of traits that we tend to carry with us when we are highly sensitive people. And I'm going to see if any of those things might relate to you. Okay, so I want you to grab a pen or a pencil and just make a little tick mark on each one, or just hold your fingers up if you hear a trait that matches you. Okay, and I think I have, let's see, yes, I've got 8 different traits to share with you today. Okay, so let's do it. Number 1, highly sensitive people tend to cry easily, or more easily than other people. They might cry about commercials, they might cry when they're overstressed or uncertain, and of course crying is nothing to be ashamed of, but highly sensitive people sometimes feel embarrassed that they've been caught crying, if that makes any sense. Number 2, they react more strongly. So it's really common to overreact when you're highly sensitive. Things that average people might be a little bit upset by might really, really upset you in ways that people don't understand when they're not in the situation. All emotional reactions are stronger when you're a sensory processing sensitive, as it were. The thing that you need to understand is that sometimes we're not reacting more strongly, but when we're in a narcissistic abuse situation, we might react strongly to something that somebody else thinks is no big deal, but that's because they don't understand the pervasive nature of gaslighting and abuse, and the way that narcissists their sneaky ways of making us feel bad about ourselves and feel bad about our relationship. Sneaky. Highly sensitive people also have, this is number 3, an issue with decision making. Sometimes we make decisions more slowly than other people, and that's because we're committed to making the best possible decisions most of the time, and because we found that when we've been through abuse, we've found that we tend to painstakingly go over each detail and consider all the possibilities that might happen, because it takes a significant amount of time to get it right. And because of that, people need to be patient with us when we're trying to make a decision. Highly sensitive people tend to be more critical of themselves than other people are. We're so good at beating ourselves up, aren't we, guys? But the thing is that one of the things we have to work on is to understand that, in fact, anything less than perfection can become a source of anxiety for us. Anything less than perfection. So we need to stay focused on remembering that we can be the perfect versions of ourselves in any given moment. Okay? There's no perfection in this world, no matter what anybody tells you. Number 5, we really care about the details. We notice things other people don't notice, and no detail can be too small to make note of. Now, for me, this tends to, the focus of this tends to be details about what people said and expressions on people's faces and things like that. Some people are more concerned about like the physical details, like the way the room looks or the way the house is or stuff like that. So keep it in mind. We're more aware of details than some people on certain things. We tend to be more annoyed. This is number 6. We tend to be more annoyed by weird stimuli or random things than other people. So whether maybe we hear a squeaky noise in the car or a stray pebble is in our shoe, or for me, it's the loud noises that bother me, the sudden loud noises, or the long-term loud noises, So like if I'm sitting in a room and loud music is playing, I can handle it for a while, but after a while I have to go away somewhere quiet because I feel like I'm completely overwhelmed by this noise. So, whether, whatever it is, highly sensitive people are easily overstimulated and overwhelmed by things that for the average person might not even register as a problem. So, like for example, if I have one friend who claps really loudly whenever he's laughing, ha 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 ha, clap clap. Whenever those claps happen, I physically jump, and I'm sure that it's a leftover from PTSD or CPTSD. Sometimes when we're highly sensitive, we take criticism poorly. Now, even a mild criticism could elicit a strong reaction in us, but if we make an effort to not overreact, it's a good idea. Personally, I had to get really, really strong in order to be able to sit here on YouTube and talk to y'all, because, as you know, there are some haters in the world, and it was a process for me to get really strong in this way, but here I am, and no makeup again. Don't care. So, hey, let's do that. Big one for me. We tend to become overwhelmed by time pressure. When we feel overwhelmed by, oh my God, I have so many things to do and I have just a little bit of time to do it, and we get very overwhelmed. And I think part of that is our issue for wanting to make sure everyone's happy, making sure we don't mess up, making sure everything, that we're doing everything right. So does any of this sound familiar to you? If so, how does it feel to know that you're not alone, and does it help you to know that maybe you have a better understanding of it now? Tell me what you think in the comments. So now we've discussed the issue. Would you like to hear a few solutions? I think that you might. So here we go. Solution number 1. You can minimize the effects by getting more sleep. Okay. And that just is plain old logic, I think. Number 2, avoid excessive amounts of caffeine. As I'm about to take my last drink of coffee. Caffeine affects people differently. If it affects you in a way that makes you stressed out, scale back on it. So, you wouldn't need the additional stimulation if you're already feeling overstimulated. That is a term that I've used quite often myself in my own life, as well as, when my children were babies and we would go to a family gathering or something, or a big event, and everybody would want to hold the baby and talk to the baby and make noise around the baby, they would get overstimulated. And I often feel that same way when I've been in a big loud room for a while full of people. I feel very overstimulated. I have to go somewhere quiet by myself for a while to get over it. And it's okay. I used to think that was a a disability of sorts, but now I understand it's just something I need, and so I give myself that quiet room if I need it. Yeah, another thing you can do is to spend time in relaxing environments every day. Well, I just said that I do that. Here I am in my office, which I've created for my own personal, use as well as for y'all, because obviously I record from here most days. But this is also where I work during the day, and this is also where I do a lot of my creative stuff. So for me, this is a relaxing and calming place. I love my pink. So yeah. All right. And then, of course, avoid spending too much time in overstimulating environments, the real noisy places that make you feel crazy. Give yourself enough time to get stuff done, and take the time you need before reacting to an emotional upset. So one of the things I like to do is, if you need to count to 10 before you react, or I like to think about what I say before I'm going to say it. Or I'll be like, you know what, I can't really talk to you about that right now. I'm going to go for a walk, and I'll come back later and we'll talk about it, or whatever. Clear yourself, give yourself the space. Take the time you need to before reacting to any emotional upset. All right. So just, if you are the person who is highly sensitive, just give yourself, the space that you need and the time that you need to calm yourself down during any difficult time. And make sure that you, if you are dealing with other highly sensitive people in your life, that you try to understand them and understand what they're dealing with. Remember that this condition is genetic. So asking, anyone who has this trait is kind of like asking somebody who's 30 years old to get taller, because asking them to change it is like asking someone who's 30 years old to get taller, because the fact is that once you have this trait, it is what it is. It's part of your life. You just have to learn how to deal with it and accept it. Okay? So a highly sensitive person might not want to go to a rock music weekend festival. To me, that sounds like almost like a nightmare. The big crowds and the loudness. Oh my God. But hey, you'll never find a more attentive listener. And, there are advantages to being highly sensitive. Okay? So, like being observant, being detail-oriented. Make the most of what you have to work with. And you're going to find that life gets a lot better, a lot faster. You feel me? All right, I'm going to wrap up. I've got a couple Saturday morning calls today with clients. So I'm going to go get busy and do those. And I will see you guys later today for another video. All right? Have a wonderful Saturday. And don't forget, tomorrow is Self-Love Sunday, so I'll be here for that as well. All right? I hope you will too. So tell me, do you think you might have sensory processing sensitivity? And do you think it could be a result of the abuse that you experienced with your narcissist? Share your thoughts in the comments below and let's talk about it. All right? I'll see you guys soon. As always, thanks for letting me be a part of your day and a part of your life. And thanks for being a part of mine. It really does mean a lot to me. See you soon.
It's my mission to teach others what I know to be true. You really can create the life you want. Take care of your body, take care of your soul, nurture the real you, and introduce him or her to the world. Be comfortable in your own skin and in your place in this world. Take your spot, take it now, and the universe will take its cue from you. You feel me? If so, subscribe to my channel. Let's get it done together.